Welcome back to another Mech Tech. Today we have our first Precon upgrade guide from Aetherdrift, featuring Living Energy, helmed by Saheeli, Radiant Creator. Saheeli is a 4/4 human artificer with two distinct abilities that work in tandem. So the first ability is that whenever you cast an artifact or artificer, you're going to gain 1 energy. Now you can take the energy and spend them 3 at a time at the start of combat to create a token copy of another permanent. Token copy, becomes a 5/5 artifact creature in addition to its other types. So what is our game plan with Saheeli? Well, we really want to get value based off of copying strong ETB effects, as well as leaving the battlefield effects. And I think we have quite a few cards in here that are going to help us get there. So let's get started. But before we dive on into our 10 in, 10 out that are all under $10, we do need to mention our sponsor, Arcane Fortress, makers of fine TCG accessories, but more about them at the end of the video. So as always, we are taking out 10 cards and putting 10 cards in that we feel raise the synergy, make the deck a little more consistent, and possibly allow you to win a little more often. So starting off with our cuts, we have Chain Reaction. So Chain Reaction is a 4-cost, effectively board wipe. Most of our creatures are not big booties, so Chain Reaction is definitely going to wipe our board as well as all of our opponents. In a tokens kind of matter strategy, I don't love board wipes. And I don't think that they're necessary for us here, so I'm happy to get rid of this one. Chromatic Lantern. So a 3-color deck kind of is the tipping point where it's like, oh, should I run Chromatic Lantern for land fixing? Should I not? I don't think we need to in this deck. We are in green, so we do have access to other forms of ramp. And honestly, there's enough lands out there that are budget and multicolored that I don't feel like we need this. So we're gonna just go ahead and cut it, along with another 3-cost mana rock in the form of Commander Sphere. Commander Sphere has been on my chopping block for a long time, and it just remains there. I don't feel like the ability to sacrifice it to draw a card at some point really does enough for us, so I'm happy to let it go. Cultivator's Caravan is another 3-cost mana rock that I'm happy to cut. Sure, it's a vehicle, and it's a 5/5 at that gets crewed for 3, which is fine. But, again, I think that we have better things out there, and we don't really need to rely on this. Following that up, we have Duplicant. So Duplicant is weird. Maybe I'm missing something here, and if I am, please let me know in the comments, because I don't want to be misinformed. But a 6/6 2/4 that you could exile a creature with as it enters, and basically steal its stats, but not its effects, just doesn't feel that strong in Modern Magic. You know what I mean? It's like, wow, it's a vanilla creature that's maybe big. And yeah, maybe it removes, like, an opponent's big thing, so costing 6 is worth something. But, I don't know, I just feel like there are better things out there, and you could argue it's like, well, with Saheeli, Radiant Creator, 6 mana, or not 6 mana, 3 energy every turn, lets you exile one of the things, you're kind of getting rid of a repeated source of removal. Yeah, you are. But, like, it doesn't feel great, so it's gone. Moving on to Explosive Vegetation, this is a ramp spell, and it's not a bad ramp spell by any means, but it is at 4 mana, which is the same mana value as our commander. So, generally speaking, it feels like we're playing it off curve, assuming we have it in, like, our opening hand, because we really want to get our commander out as soon as possible to start gaining that energy. Pia and Kiran Nalar. So, 4 mana creates 3 bodies themselves as well as some Thopters. You could pay some mana to sacrifice artifacts, set up for those Thopters, to deal some damage. And again, with Saheeli, we could create a bunch of Thopters. And that's fine. I don't think we ever have enough mana in this deck to be like, watch as I mana sink, and just like sacrifice a body that was gonna not die for 2 damage, and it's like, I'm not about it. I think we have better targets. Retrofitter Foundry. So, 1 mana artifact does a bunch of things that effectively chain their way up. So you start off by creating a servo, which you could sacrifice to create a Thopter, which you could sacrifice to create a 4/4 construct. And none of those creatures are bad, per se. But I don't think that they're necessarily great either, in the fact that we have to either spend multiple turns or 3 mana extra each step of the way to untap the Retrofitter Foundry. Makes me not love it. So it is gone. And last but not least is the Soul Guide Lantern. The Soul Guide Lantern exiles a card from a graveyard as it enters. You can tap it and sacrifice it to have each opponent exile their grave, or you could tap it and sack it, having paid a little bit of mana to draw a card. And it just feels weak. But of course, removing things isn't enough. We are looking to add 10 things, all under $10. Let's get to it. Garruk's Uprising is going to start us off. For 3 mana, we have this enchantment that when it enters, if we control a creature with at least 4 power, we're going to draw a card. Give all of our creatures trample, and whenever a creature with power 4 or greater enters moving forward, we're going to draw another card. And Saheeli already has the power on her own for the card draw initially, and the copies that she creates are big enough to also trigger it, giving us a ton of card draw throughout the game. Aether Revolt is going to follow up Garruk's Uprising, so another 4-cost thing, and I'm okay with playing this off curve a little bit, because again, I know that our commander kind of fits that 4 mana slot for us pretty well. But it has Revolt, so as long as a permanent has left the field during our turn, we have Revolt active, which is going to deal a little bit of extra damage instead. But just as a base, whenever we gain 1 or more energy, we're going to deal that much damage to any target. So, you know, if we sacrificed a treasure, a clue, we just had a creature die, whatever it may be, and then we're gaining energy afterwards, we're dealing a little extra. But even just the incidental damage from like, oh hey, I gained 1 energy. It's like, cool, then I'll go ahead and pop like your little weenies. They're not a threat to me. So I really like Aether Revolt in general. Moving up into our artifacts, we are running Sundial of the Infinite. So Sundial of the Infinite makes it so you can pay 1 mana and tap it and just end the turn immediately. Basically removes the entire stack. We're not worried about it. And the main reason it's here is actually for Saheeli, right? The token copies that Saheeli creates are meant to be sacrificed at the end step. With that delayed trigger on the stack, if we really want to keep those bodies, we can. Moving on from there, we have Izzet Generatorium. So, little Izzet mana to go ahead and cast it. If we would gain energy, we get to gain that much +1. And as long as we've spent 4 or more energy in a turn, we can tap it and draw a card. Both effects are good, so I'm kind of here for it. Last of the artifact additions, we have Aether Refinery. So Aether Refinery is a little on the pricey side in terms of mana, less so on the actual, dollar side. But it is 6 mana artifact, doubles our energy production, and is a energy sink, right? We could tap it to gain energy, then we could spend energy and create creatures that are XX based on the energy we spent. So it actually works really well with the Izzet Generatorium if we really want to draw a card and we have a bunch of excess energy. But the energy doubling is really what it's here for. From there, we're going to jump up into our creatures, starting off with the Wormcoil Engine, who is a chef's kiss moment for Saheeli, right? This is a 6/6 for 6 with Death Touch and Lifelink, and when it dies, it's going to leave behind 2 halves of its former self in the form of 2 3/3 worms, one of which has Death Touch and one of which has Lifelink. So, pretty easy to just basically create a large board that they don't want to attack into with all of our Death Touchers, and go from there, Next up is Time Stream Navigator. So Time Stream Navigator is actually super cheap to pick up right now. I picked up a bunch of copies recently. because I love Time Stream Navigator. I think it's an excellent way in decks where you're creating token copies to just go ahead and take infinite extra turns, you know? So for those of you that don't know, it is a 1/1 for 1 blue. It has Ascend, so once you have at least 10 permanents, you're going to get the City's Blessing. Very easy to do in Commander. And for 2 and 2 blue, you could tap them down, put them to the bottom of your library, and take an extra turn. Well, our tokens can go to the bottom of that library. The effect will go off, they'll pop, you know, oh no, that token doesn't actually get to hang out in the library, and we have an extra turn. So as long as you have a way of generating the 3 energy each turn, for Saheeli, you create a token copy of the Time Stream Navigator, you take extra turns, and you do other nonsense, right? Royal Cartographer is going to follow that up. So Royal Cartographer is another 1 blue. They have landfall to gain energy, and we could pay 6 energy and tap them down to draw a card. Really here for that extra source of landfall, gain energy. I think we're running every single instance of that in the game in this deck. Continuing our clone strategy, we have Kiki Jiki Mirror Breaker. So 5 mana, it's actually pretty well on curve with our commander. Hasty 2/2, we could tap them down to create a copy of target non-legendary creature we control on the battlefield. Tons of options, you know, that we could pop off with. We do have to sacrifice that token at the beginning of the end step, but again with Sundial of the Infinite, maybe that creature gets to stick around, who knows? But works really well with the Time Stream Navigator that we went over just a little while ago. As does Felden of the Third Path. So Felden is a 3 mana, 2/3 human artificer. So he actually has a lot going for him in that, right? Human artificer means that he shares types with our commander. He's also going to trigger the commander for being an artificer, giving us an energy whenever we cast him, assuming we've cast our commander already. For 2 in a red, we can tap him down and create a token copy of a creature that's in our grave, except that it is an artifact in addition to its other types. It also gains haste and is meant to be sacrificed at the end step. Well, if our Time Stream Navigator got blown up because someone is a jerk, ah man, I created a copy of it from my grave, and that token copy is gonna also go to the bottom of the library and give me infinite extra turns. I'm gonna just keep doing it. Nothing you can do about it. But guys, that is the upgrade guide. You know, are there cards that you feel I took out that I shouldn't have? Cards that I didn't add in that were budget that I could have added? You know, maybe even some cards that aren't quite budget that you feel like really crank this deck up to an 11. Let me know in the comments down below. But as always, these episodes are brought to you by Arcane Fortress, makers of fine TCG accessories, including deck boxes, sleeves, binders, playmats, and more. There is a link below to get you 5% off your purchase, as well as help out the channel. But of course, you never need to spend any money to support us. You could just like, comment, subscribe, share these videos with your group chats, you know, watch them on low volume in the background, whatever you want to do. But until next time, I'm Mechanized Minion, wishing you good luck with your builds.